Hi everyone. So today I'm playing with this little painting that I actually did a week or so ago, but I only did it as a short, which is the real fast time. So I thought I'd go ahead and make it into a real time so I could kind of show you what I did. The paints I'll be using today, let's see, are my Mylang palette. As you know, I absolutely adore this palette. Really reasonable. It's a sister company of Paul Rubens, so it reminds me of a lot of the Paul Rubens pan sets. I don't think the light fastness is quite as high, which light fastness just meaning if you put it in the sun, is it going to last? Is it going to fade? So the light fastness may not be as high on these as a regular Paul Rubens tin, but they are fantastic, you guys, for the price. I mean, look at these colors. They're gorgeous. And if you're like me, I'm a lazy painter. I don't want to have to figure out how to mix these. When I'm just painting every day, I want to sit down, pull up my palette. I just sprayed it to get the pans activated. If you're using tubes, obviously you don't have to do that. And I love them. They're transparent, they're beautiful, they're bright, they're really creamy. So I really like those. I'm going to be using, let's see, I have this rough paper here by Meeden. I love Meeden. I love it as much as I do those Artisto pads. These are a little bit bigger, 10 by 7. They're all 100% cotton, and they come on a block. So no matter, lately I've been working really wet in wet. So these are great because it keeps it from kind of buckling up and warping. So I'm going to be using the rough. Normally I use cold press, so it goes hot press, which I've got here, very smooth. I'm going to do my swatch on here for these colors in a second. You've got your cold press, which is this. It's lightly rough, textured, beautiful. And then you've got your rough, which is really rough. It's great for landscapes. I'm going to try it with these flowers and we'll see what happens. So let's do this first. Let's try and swatch out these colors. By the way, I'm also using my Meeden 2 wells of water. So I wash in one and then I rinse. Specifically making sure your rinse water is really sparkly clean. And I love these Meeden ceramic products. They're fabulous and they're really reasonable. And then this is just an old dish from my grandma's. I found it out in the garage there when she passed away recently, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I wish I knew where the cup was. Okay, so what I'm going to do so I can play with these colors and figure out what colors I used here is I've got this handy dandy little stamps that I found a few weeks ago. You might have caught my video on them. I love them because I can use them to swatch out my colors. And then I've got my permanent ink. It's all acid ink, waterproof. I'm sure you've seen these. And then you guys all help me find this acrylic block to put it on because this is like just a little rubber. Feels really cool actually. And it just sticks on there. All right. So let's go ahead and do my swatch. I think I'll do it over here. There we go. I'll let that dry for just a second and then I'll swatch in my colors. For my brushes, you could use here any Filbert. I will link the Princeton Filbert. I think they're great. The Filbert is the one that kind of looks like a petal at the end. I think they're fantastic. I use them both on the flat side and I turn it, I don't know, is that vertically, horizontally, sideways? And I use the side too. So I think that's the one I'm actually going to be using. Again, you can use any Filbert brush you have. I'm using a number 10 from my custom set that's coming out in September. Really excited about that. It's been a whole year. I'm also going to keep handy here my number 8. If you're interested in these, by the way, I'll put the link in the description below here. All of these supplies, I'll grab all my links I used when I purchased them and put them down there for you. And then I'll put a link if you want to be sent an email when these come out in September. They're great brushes. You guys help me design them. The packaging is so fun, and I think you're really gonna like them. They are really great, and I can't wait to share them with you. So let's do this. I'm gonna put some turquoises in here. Let me grab my, let's see here. 1 second, guys. I'm going to grab my little painter's diary that I put all the colors of this palette in here. This is Philosophy. These are great, by the way. They're so fun to play with, these painter diaries. Here's the My Lang. Okay. Now, this one, let's see. Let me see. Hold on here. Because I think those are those MAB metallics. Anyway, this is the 48 palette. So I think the colors I'm going to use, it looks like I use this emerald green. So let's just grab that one here and put it on our sheet. Let me get all my stuff situated here so you can see it in the camera. So this is the emerald green. And I'm just going to fill in this is one of the funnest things I think I've bought, are these little, just gonna rinse that off so I can make it lighter in value. I like to do that so I can see it from its darkest value to its lightest. Let's put in just a little bit darker on this side, meaning more pigment. As it gets more water, it gets lighter. And values are so important in your paintings because they're really going to give your painting some depth. Like if you can see here, the dark really pops out. The medium is like mid-ground, and then those light colors, which is like 80% water, 20% pigment, is in the background. The other color I think I have here is, let's see if we can figure this out. Looks like I probably have some of that turkey blue, which makes sense because I love turkey blue. And then maybe some of the sky blue or light blue. So let's just put a few of those together. So I'm going to do first, let's see, maybe the turkey blue. Yeah, that's pretty. I heard one of you was telling me too, I'm just rinsing my brush so it's damp. It's like what they call a thirsty brush. It's not really holding any water. It's just damp. And then I'm going to pull that across so I can see my dark and my light. And then it looks like I have just the tiniest touch of purple. So I'm going to grab some of that here. And I probably put it in there when it was wet, so it kind of diluted it. But it gave it a hint. And then I'll rinse my brush again, tap it off on my paper towel to get rid of that excess water. And then pull it on over so I can see the different values. So the darkest value is typically 80 pigment, 20 water. As you get to the lightest, it's 80 water, 20 pigment. And always really trying to incorporate all these different values of that pigment in there for interest. Okay. I see I've got like a burnt sienna in there, so let's grab that. One of my favorite colors. Love this color. It looks like I may have used that for the center, and then I'll get my olive green on there. And yellow sienna, burnt sienna, they're pretty transparent. Wash, rinse my brush, tap it off. So it's thirsty, and now pull that across. There we go. Okay, and now for our olive green that it looks like I used for the stems and some leaves. I probably used, which actually I think what I'll do is on the other side of that, I'll add in the sap green and kind of blend those together, because those are typically my go-tos for my green. Rinse my brush off. I think I'll add just a tiny bit more of that olive green. There we go. Let those kind of blend together. Okay. So there we go. All right. So those are my greens. I just barely have a tiny bit of that purple, and that should be good. All right. So I want to keep this kind of nearby so I can refer to it. And then let me grab my paper. Again, this is the rough. So you're going to see on rough paper, because it's a little bit more textury, toothy, it's going to suck a lot of the water and pigment in quicker than the cold press, which is what I usually use. So again, you've got that hot press, cold press, rough. Cold, which I normally use, cold press 140 pound, is right in the middle. This is just happens to be what I had sitting here, so that's what I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do first is just go in with a wet brush, and then I'm going to go in and put my paint in. So let's just turn this around here. Haven't got a lot of space on there. And I'm going to put in my emerald green here. Let's see, let's start over here. So there's that emerald green. There we go. Oops, stuck my finger in my swatch. And then let's get some of our, let's do some sky blue here. I want to have it ready in my palette because I'm working very wet on wet. So I want this to be ready to go. There we go. And let's see, what other colors should I have ready to go? Those are mainly the two colors of my flowers I've got in here. Is the emerald green, the blue. I've got a tiny, tiny bit of purple in there. So, oh, I know the other color, that turkey blue. So let's just do a little, I love that color actually. Next to that Quin Magenta, I think it could be one of my favorites. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Wash, rinse my brush. So I've got a pretty clean brush, and I can tell that because if I go into my paper, it's pretty clear. There's a tiny bit of blue in there. So I am going to just tap off my brush. And now I will go in and start creating the shape of this flower with just water. So I'm anchoring my hand here because I'm not a good hoverer to paint. My hand's too shaky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using for the flatter parts, I'm going to be turning my brush. So you might have to watch kind of carefully. I'm going to be going flat. And then for some of the side petals, I'm going to be using the edge and kind of in this back and forth seesaw motion. So let's go in first and lay down our water. See, I've got some blue in there. That's okay, because we're using blue. And I'm just making some of these shapes. Some petals coming out here. You don't have to get too picky here, because we can add to it, making them kind of fluffy. And then I'm going to go in kind of quickly before this dries. So I don't know if you can see that, but I've got water on there. And then I'm going to go in with my lightest color, which is the blue. And just going to start tapping in, and look at how soft and beautiful that is. Now, with Wet n Wet, it's only, this paint is only going to go where the water is. So I don't have to worry when I'm putting this paint down that it's going to be flowing all over the place, all over my paper, because it's only going where I put that water. Now, before I get too far here, I'm going to go into that green and start kind of touching in just here and there. I have to be kind of careful with that green because it's pretty intense. And I'm using both the side and the, so see how intense that is right there? I'm using both the side and the flat part of my brush, but look how beautiful. You guys, I have been painting my whole lifetime, and I'm no spring chicken. I'm still young. I'm only 61, or going to be 61 in August, but I still like, there's just no other medium for me. I love this medium. I just think it's magical. I've never painted with anything I like more. Just a quick note too. Be careful if you use these same colors, because if you go into purple and green, if you mix them too much, it's going to create mud, because remember, they're opposite on the color wheel. I don't think I have my color wheel here. 1 second, guys. I don't. I paint so spontaneously. I need to plan a little bit better. Yeah, I don't have my color wheel right here, but if you were to look on the color wheel, they're opposites. So this is really a colorful flower here. And I could even pick some up. I'm leaving, do you see, I'm leaving lots of white space. I could even lift up some areas if I want. I want darker spaces in the middle, but like maybe that, where at the base of the flower, this is that turkey blue. Now look, that pretty much took over. So what I can do, don't freak out, I can go in and lift like that and kind of spread it out, and maybe put just a tiny touch of that at the, now here I'm using the side of my brush just to touch some of those edges, and that also will kind of spread some of that blue around. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. Let's move on to the next one. So wash and rinse my brush, tap it off, tap, 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 and let's go into, look at how beautiful that is. You know what, I think I actually want to do my green, let's do, before this dries, our stem here. So I can use the side of my brush. I'm holding it horizontally. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? We could add in some leaves using the side of this brush. Now, if I really wanted to get fancy, I could take one side of my brush into the light green and the other side into our sap green, and point press, and you're going to have a little bit of that darker. That really wasn't a huge difference, so let me do that again. There we go. Look at that. So I'm just dipping my brush into both colors. There we go. And look how beautiful this is once you kind of let it dry. All right, let's create another one of these flowers. And I think I'll do a little bud right here. So I'm going to make it smaller. So tap, tap, tap my brush after I rinse it off. And let's do kind of a little bud right here. So I've got a smaller, and I'm okay with it being a little tinted green. Number one, you guys can see it, and it's gonna mix anyway. And then pick up some of that light blue, tap in. The light sky blue by My Lang is pretty light. I'm bringing the tip of my petals too, all going towards the center of the flower, if you notice. There we go. And now we'll pick up some of that emerald green, which again, be really careful, like barely put any on your brush because it's pretty powerful, guys. There we go. And I think I'm going to grab a little bit more of that blue. And I'm leaving some white space in there. And then I'll go in with that purple too. Okay, so let's just pick up a tiny bit of that purple. These My Lang paints are they're pretty vibrant, so make sure you're doing some little test swatches with them so you kind of get how vibrant they are before you go into your painting. So I'm gonna let that dry because we're gonna come back here and put in some darker values. I will go ahead and do our stem. Let's see, we wanna come from the middle and then just using the side of this brush, so not flat, the side. That's what's pretty cool about this brush, by the way, is I can get thick and thin lines, which I love. So for this leaf, I'm doing a thin, thick, thin. So let me do that one more time for you. So thin, thick, and back up to the tip again, like that. There we go. All right, I quite like that. Now I'm going to go into the center here, if this is dry. It's pretty dry. And here's where I might use that 8 long round. So just set that Filbert down for a minute. You could do it with the Filbert though, and go into that burnt sienna color and just tap in right here. Now part of this is going to spread where it's hitting some of those flowers, and part of it where it's not hitting any wet area. Picked up a little bit darker brown is going to, so I added in, by the way, a little bit of the Van Dyke brown, but I love including dark browns with the burnt siennas, that Van Dyke brown. I just think it's so pretty. So that's about all I did here. I mean, these were very loose and washy, and that's how I did it. You could stop right now because these are pretty, or you could go in with some darker values. I'm not sure if these are dry enough, but let's give it a go. So here's some of those same colors. We've got that sky blue. We could even add in a little bit of the darker sky blue. And I'm just gonna go in and create some leaves. So this is where that layering comes in, or glazing. Let's see what that purple looks like. And always, you guys, you know, stop if you feel called to. Like, don't follow me all the time. I'm washing and rinsing my brush and going to soften some of these edges. I'm scraping off some of that water because I don't like too much of hard lines. So I might add some little definition up there. I don't want to do too much and ruin this, so I'm going to kind of leave it like it is. Maybe go into this one like that and just add in a few. So there you go, you guys. I make sure in here too, I want to do a lighter value, which just means I'm going to use, so this is a dark value. This is kind of a light value. This is a mid value. You want to make sure you have all of those in there so that you're creating some depth and interest in your painting. Let me put that around. So these are a lighter value, which is just going to pull them back a bit. Oops, I just picked up some red. There we go. Maybe a tiny bit of that yellowy green and a lighter value. So I just pick up some water, scrape off. Look at all that liquid that came out. So tapping off, 1, 2, 3, and you get rid of all that excess water. And then let's go in for point press like that. And I'm just playing here now at this point, guys. You could be completely done with this. Let's see here. Let's overlap one here, or maybe here. Point, press, point, like that. So see how that dark color really popped out there? That's what we want to do. All right, everybody, I hope that was fun for you. So what we did here is I used the Filbert brush. I used it on its side for some of those thin sweeping lines. And then I used it on the flat part for some of the thicker lines. I did a little bit of lifting. And actually, I'm going to lift right there. So I take my damp brush and just lift that out. There we go. And then we also did some glazing, although let your paint dry a little bit more than mine, because that will keep it from getting all those blooms or cauliflower effects, because you're going in with a wetter mixture than what's on your paper. So if it's completely dry, it's fine. It's just like going wet on dry. But if you're going wet on damp, hasn't quite dried yet, still kind of shiny, you're going to get some of those blossoms and blooms, which is fine, you know, if you're doing those intentionally. All right, everybody, I hope that was a fun one for you. I also had the short on this, and you guys wanted to see how I did it, so that's how I did it. I went in with the water first and then came in, excuse me, with some paint. So I will link these brushes if you want to be notified when they come out in September. That would be awesome. The more people interested in them, of course, you know, the sooner they'll get released. So it's a set of 5. Don't mind this color. That's wrong. It's going to be this pink color, but this is the brush. I got the big old bad boy. I've got a Filbert, cat's tongue, 8 long round, and my angle brush. So that's that set. It's going to be $55, and then it'll go up to $65. I'll link all of my supplies in the description below. And, you know, check out my community page here. If you want to keep following me and you want to see my tutorials come up, just hit subscribe. You can hit, I think, the little bell, and it'll notify you. And I just appreciate you guys being with me here. This has been so much fun this last year. And you guys have, you know, really stepped in and helped me with a lot of my designing and what I'm painting. And it's really been fun. All right. Happy painting, everybody. Remember, you are an artist. You're an artist. And because your work doesn't look like others, doesn't mean it's bad. And it doesn't mean you're not an artist. It just means you have your own unique style, and it's about really loving that unique style that's you. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.